Chapter 24. The training center for medical techs smelled like a hospital. The plastic bleach scent nearly made Danielle gag. She snorted through her nose to get rid of the stench and stifled a shudder. She hated hospitals. Just the look of a hospital sent goosebumps rising all over her skin. And this place looked like a hospital. Stark white walls, polished tiled floors, everyone wearing lab coats. Ugh! Danielle swallowed the bile rising in her throat. This place is awful. She paused outside of the room she and Tajay had been assigned in order to compose herself. She couldn't let her discomfort show. She wouldn't show weakness to grudge it. With a deep, steadying breath to calm her nerves and stomach, she walked in. Long tables filled the training room. Each table had 5 different stations set up along its length, and each station had been filled with monitors, scanners, and other medical equipment. A group of agents in training stood at each one, measuring and diagnosing and discussing what different excretions meant to each other. A shiver went up her spine. How could they be so fascinated by the different colors of mucus and the type of infections they indicated? At least she and Tajay wouldn't be alone here. It made her heart settle a bit. Tajay stood at a station in the middle of the room. Danielle raised her chin and joined him. She set her bag underneath the station and turned to him. He grunted in greeting. Danielle stiffened. She could never tell what those different grunts and groans meant. Sit. Tajay pointed to the seat next to him. He, however, stood. Danielle lowered herself to her seat without taking her eyes off of him. Let's start with the basics. Tajay reached to the chair next to him and picked up a tray filled with medical equipment. He set it down in front of her and pointed to each one and named them. Stethoscope, otoscope. Stop right there. Danielle held her hand up to stop him. Don't need to go through all this useless information. I'm a master technical specialist. As such, I already have the skill to pass the medical tech exam. Tajay lowered his hand. He cocked his head. How? All you have to do is scan your patient, right? Danielle pulled a data hub from its holder. Then you look up the symptoms, match it to a disease, look up the treatment, and done. Simple. Tajay plucked the data hub from her grasp. Pretend it died. He placed it on the table. Not possible. Danielle raised her chin. Data hubs run on nuclear fission batteries, which have a 100-year lifespan. In the unlikely event the data hub battery runs out, it has backup solar power. That is broken. Tajay slammed his fist on the table. All the equipment on the table jumped. When he removed his hand, the table had cracked. Tajay sighed. Danielle's eyes widened when she saw the cracks on the table. Then they narrowed at Tajay. Are you trying to intimidate me? Because it's not going to work. I get enough grief from Alex. I won't take it from you. Tajay lowered himself into the seat. Danielle bit her lip to stifle a snicker. His bulk barely fit into the chair. It reminded her of the time her father had come to visit her kindergarten. He, too, had to scrunch up to fit in the chair. You don't like me, Tajay said. Danielle thrust her nose in the air. That's fairly obvious. I don't like you. Tajay looked her in the eye. Danielle snorted through her nose. I have a reason. Tajay rested his elbow on the table. Do you? Of course I do. It's because you're... Danielle trailed off. Everyone in the room could hear her, and she didn't want to say it in public. I'm a grudget. Danielle flinched. Hearing it out loud made it sound petty. Yes, because you're a grudget, she said. I have a very good reason to be distrustful of your kind. Why? I don't have to tell you. Tajay took a deep breath, like Danielle's mother used to when she tried not to lose her temper. What have I done? What? You hate me. Why? I don't hate you specifically. Tajay grunted. He let his shoulders slump. I'm a grudget. People see me and scream. He paused a moment. They run. They get angry. He raised his hands to look at them. I have done nothing wrong. Danielle looked at him. His eyes shone with tears that would not fall. Her heart sank. Imagine being hated, distrusted, feared, all because of his species. Danielle hung her head. In that moment, she got a glimpse of his life. She averted her eyes. No one sees me as equal. Tajay ran his hands along the tray of the medical equipment. I'm an animal. Why? He looked at Danielle in the eye. Even my records aren't safe. Danielle's heart jumped. So Alex had told him about it, huh? She crossed her arms. Had to do it. Why? Because... Danielle paused. You're Gretchen! Tajay heaved a sigh so deep it expanded his stomach. You're making me out to be some kind of ignorant bigot. Danielle slammed her palm on the table. I have a good reason to be wary. Why? Grudges are assassins. Everyone knows it. Tajay grunted. Don't grunt at me. I'm not saying it as a blind general statement. I'm saying it because it's true. I know it firsthand. Danielle slammed her fist on the table. My mother was murdered by a Grudget. The entire room fell silent. Tajay's mouth dropped open. Not just my mother, but everyone who was with her. Danielle wiped the tears from her eyes. My uncle, my aunt, my cousins. They're all gone. That creature beat them to death with its bare hands. She covered her face with her hands. My mother survived the attack at first. When I saw her in the hospital, struggling to breathe, there was nothing I could do for her. I felt so useless. A heavy hand fell on Danielle's shoulder. She jumped. Tajay looked her in the eye. Tears fell down his cheeks. I'm sorry. Danielle gave a grunt of disgust and shoved his hands off her shoulder. It's fine. She picked up her things. I'm leaving. But... Tajay stood. Danielle grabbed her bag and marched out. In no universe would she ever stay in the same room with a Grudget who had seen her so vulnerable. Besides, at that moment, all she wanted to do was curl up in a ball somewhere and cry.